Hey y'all, welcome back. Welcome back. It is so good to see you again. If you are new here, welcome. I am Mia with the Glam Corridor, and my channel focuses on everything fashion, style, and beauty. And for today's video, I wanted to do a quick DIY on how to crop and cut your own graphic tee. So if you're interested in that, please stick around, but make sure you are subscribed to my channel first, and we'll get into the video. Okay, so like I said, I wanted to do a really quick update on how to crop and cut your own graphic tee. I did one a couple of years ago, but I wanted to do a new one just for the people that haven't seen it and that are new to my channel. So if you know me, you know that I love graphic tees. I have on my Farm Rio graphic tee, and if you follow me on Instagram, or if you've been following me on Instagram for a couple of years now, you know I love styling graphic tees. And I often crop my graphic tees, so I'll get quite a few people that ask, can you do a video on how to do it? Or they'll ask me how I do it and what's the upkeep like and all of that. So I figured since it's spring and I'm going to be pulling out more short sleeve shirts and things like that, and I'm going to be cropping more shirts, I felt like it was a good time to do another video. And I'm going to crop this t-shirt, and this brand is called Jolie Noir. And I was introduced to this brand about a couple of years ago through Target. This is pre the DEI stuff. We already know what's going on with Target, but I'm supporting this particular brand because it is a Black-owned brand. And like I said, this brand is called Jolie Noir, and I was introduced to them through Target when they always do their Black History Month collection in February. And I love their collections. They have a lot of really cute graphic tees that have Black characters on them and things like that. So I have a shirt that's similar to this one, where it has a similar character on it like this, but she has on like a different color shirt. So I kept that shirt as is, and I just bought this one recently about a couple of weeks ago. So this particular style is still in stock on their website, and I will have their website linked in the description box. So I'm going to crop this particular tee, and how I'm going to do this particular one is I'm going to crop the bottom. I'm going to try it on first, and I want it to hit like right below my belly button. So I'm going to put it on first and do the measurements and mark on the shirt and things like that, so I'll know where to cut. And I'm going to cut the sleeves off because I want this particular shirt to be sleeveless. Like I said, I have one similar that I kept as is. So since I have one that's a similar that I hadn't cut, I feel like I'll be able to cut this one and I won't regret it. So like I said, I'm going to crop the bottom, and then I'm going to cut the sleeves off. And when you're cutting the sleeves of a t-shirt, you just basically cut where the seams are on the shirt. And as you can see with this particular shirt here, it's going to hit right at my shoulder. It's going to drop slightly over the shoulder, which is fine. But I wanted to share a tip first on how to decide what type of graphic tee or t-shirt to crop and cut the sleeves off. Okay, so I wanted to give two examples on how t-shirts are made differently as far as how low the seam of the shoulder drops. So the first example is this old graphic tee that I got from Zara. This shirt is specifically made oversized, which I love oversized tees, but a lot of times oversized tees, the seam of the shoulder can drop a little bit lower. So you can see if I were to, like I said, when you cut off the sleeve of a t-shirt, you cut right below, right under the seam and along the seam. So if I were to cut this particular graphic tee, you can see that the shoulder is going to drop drastically below where your shoulder hits naturally. So you can do that if you want if you want the shirt to fall that low below your shoulder. That's completely fine. But I typically like when I cut my graphic tees, I like for the sleeve to hit right on my shoulder or just a little bit below, probably like a half an inch or an inch below my shoulder. That's just me personally. If you like it to drop that low, then by all means, if you have a graphic tee that's like this, you can cut it and whatever. But I just like to share with people, make sure you're looking at the seam of the shoulder first before you cut it, and obviously make sure that that particular shirt is a shirt that you want to cut, because obviously once you cut the sleeves off or crop it, there's nothing you can do about it. So as you can see with this t-shirt, which was gifted to me by Merch Bar, the sleeves kind of curve in more, so the seam is going to hit right at the shoulder, which is what I like. But I'm going to keep this shirt this particular way just because I like it this way. But like I said, I just wanted to share visually how shirts are made differently as far as how low the shoulder drops, etc., etc. So now let's go ahead and get into the graphic tee that I'm going to cut. Okay, so starting off, you obviously want to lay your t-shirt down on a flat surface, like a table, a clean table, and make sure that your shirt is ironed out, and make sure all of the seams and the lines of the t-shirt are lined up appropriately, just because if you have any bunches, if you have any bunches before you start cutting your t-shirt, you could potentially have like a jagged line or an uneven line. So just make sure the t-shirt is laid down completely flat. And you will need super sharp scissors and a ruler. Optional is a marker or anything where you can visibly see the marks on where you're going to cut. I typically don't use a marker just because I've been doing it for so long. I can kind of gauge and eye where I'm going to cut, and I obviously take my time. And that's another thing too. Don't rush through this process just because you don't want to mess up your t-shirt. And like I said before in the beginning, make sure the t-shirt that you're cutting is a t-shirt that you don't mind cutting, because once you cut it, you obviously can't do anything about it. So make sure the shirt that you're going to cut is a t-shirt that you don't mind cutting. So y'all, by the way, this is my favorite ruler. I've literally had it since 2nd grade. Don't be talking about my ruler. You can see it's damaged or whatever, but I got it from Woolworths. I don't know if y'all know what that store is, but it used to be an old department store when I was a little kid, and we would go there. And this is just one of my favorite rulers, and it extends. I will have it forever. Completely off topic, but whatever. So like I said, I'm going to crop this t-shirt, and I'm going to do it about 1.5 inches below the word Jolie Noir, which is about here. And like I said, I typically don't use any markers. I just kind of eye it. So what I do is I just come down and I just kind of take my fingernail and go straight across the t-shirt, and it just creates a line for me to kind of cut across. And like I said, I take my time when I do this just because I obviously don't want to mess up my t-shirt, and I want the line to be as straight and seamless as possible. I don't want any jagged edges. And as you're cutting, make sure that the shirt isn't bunching up as you cut. So I start off on the edge here, and on the edge, since there is a seam here, it's thicker, so it's going to be a little harder to cut through. But like I said, just take your time when you're doing this, and as I mentioned, make sure that you have sharp enough scissors. So when you're starting off, like I said, just take your time and really cut down right here on the edge, just because of that thick seam from both sides. And then once you get past that point, just take your time and just take small cuts so that your line can be seamless and you don't have any jagged edges. Of course, it's not going to be perfect, and if you have any jagged edges, it's fine. It's not a big deal, because once you wash your t-shirt, the edges of the t-shirt are gonna fold under and roll under anyway, so you're not really gonna see it. So typically what I do is, once I finish cutting my graphic tee, I'll throw it in the washer just so it'll roll under, so when I'm ready to wear it, it's ready to go. So as you can see, this part is pretty self-explanatory, so I'm just going to fast forward through this part, and then we'll go on to cutting off the sleeves. All right, so now I'm at the edge. So just like I did in the beginning, I'm just going to start slowing down even more to make sure I cut through the seams. All right. All right, so that's the cropping of the bottom portion of the tee. So I could keep it like that if I wanted to, but like I said, I wanted to make this sleeveless, and for the sake of the video, we're gonna go ahead and cut off the sleeves. So cutting off the sleeves is gonna be even easier just because you have an obvious guide with the seam. So you just cut along the base of the seam here So I'm just going to start off the bottom, and like I said, just continuously make sure that the shirt is laid out flat and there aren't any lumps or anything. All right, so I'm going to start on this side. Sorry if I'm pausing, y'all. I'm just trying to make sure I'm staying in frame of the video so y'all can see everything. All right, so again, just take your time as you're cutting. Like I said, just cut right along that seam at the top. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and start cutting in. With it being 2 seams, you're gonna have a flap of fabric on the inside, but that's gonna roll under as you wash your shirt too. Or if you wanna cut it off once you finish cutting the sleeves off, you can. But like I said, just stay right on top of that seam. And then just, like I said, take your time. But like I said, it's easier with cutting the sleeves off just because you have the obvious guide of the seam. So that's the flap of fabric that I was talking about right there. And I'm actually just cutting it off anyway as I go. So I'll just make sure that I cut off that additional fabric once I get finished. And too, with it having the seam right there on that border, it's gonna be a little bit more tough to cut, so just make sure you're still taking your time and making sure that the shirt isn't bunching up as you cut. All right, cutting through that thicker portion of the seam, so just take your time again. So I'm just going to clean up this little area here, but it's basically looking like how I want it to. So I'm going to clean that up after I finish doing this side. So I'm going to kind of speed through this side just because you just saw how I did this side here. So again, same thing, just making sure the sleeves are laid out completely flat and not bunched up. All right, finally at the top, going slow, get through the top of the seam. All right. And now, like I said before, I'm gonna go and just cut off any loose seams. And actually, I forgot to mention this part. To do that part, to cut off any like scraggly seams or material left behind, I'll take cuticle scissors. So let me go grab my cuticle scissors because I forgot to get those. All right, so like I said, typically once I get finished cutting everything, I'll go back and like cut any like scraggly pieces of material, and just to make sure everything is kind of as straight as possible. So it's pretty much the way I want it in the front. I'm just gonna cut some of this material off here that was left behind. So yeah, this is what I was talking about before. So you'll still have some seam like that left behind. Typically it'll just come off by itself, so I'm gonna cut that off. All right, so I'm fine with the way this side looks. And now I'm gonna go on the other side and see. So I have a little bit of seam here that I want to cut. And then, so there's a little bit of material left on the back here that I'm gonna cut, which is okay. I'd rather have some material to cut than to have gone over the seam. So I'm just gonna flip the t-shirt over. But you see how the back, how I left a little bit of material beyond the seam. So I'm just gonna go over that and take that off. And since it's just a little bit of fabric, I'm just using my cuticle scissors for this. Like I said, we're just cleaning up right now any parts of the sleeve that you want to clean up after the fact. All right, and right now I'm at the top of the seam, so just going to cut straight across and cut the rest of that off. All right, that side, the rest of the seam is off. All right, so this is the finished product. I love the way it came out. I'm gonna try it on for you guys. But like I said in the beginning, well, once you get finished cutting the sleeves off, just go back and see if there's any little seams or any like loose threads or anything that you need to cut off. And like I said, I recommend cuticle scissors or any smaller scissors so you can like really get in and make sure everything is seamless and smooth. So I'm gonna go ahead and try it on for you guys so you can see what it looks like. All right, y'all, and this is the t-shirt finished off. I love the way it came out. And like I said, when you cut your t-shirts, the fabric at the bottom or anywhere where you cut it is gonna roll under. So if your lines aren't necessarily as straight as you want them, don't worry about it because the fabric is gonna roll under and it's gonna conceal any flaws that you have in it if you do have any. So it's not that big of a deal if you didn't cut your lines as smoothly as you want them. You rock your t-shirt anyway. So y'all head over to Instagram because I posted a reel on how I styled this t-shirt. If you are not on Instagram, I will be posting it on my YouTube shorts early next week. So y'all make sure y'all check that out. But I hope this video was informative and helpful for anybody that was wanting or thinking about cutting their graphic tee, but you didn't know where to start. I hope you got some inspiration from this video, but I appreciate each and every one of you for watching, and I will see y'all next time. Bye.